Deep in a narrow alleyway at night, there's a shop specializing in light bulbs called the Light Shop. The shop owner, Won Young, is a handsome, elegant, yet somewhat eccentric man. Every night he wears sunglasses, only opens his shop late at night, and never misses a single night. He guards this small, brightly lit shop. Few know that each night, the customer Won Young awaits is a mysterious and unpredictable figure. This beautiful woman in a white dress is one of the shop's customers. She stands outside the door, hesitating for a long time before turning away. Every night, when the last bus arrives at a certain stop, a late-night office worker gets off and sees this woman. Her disheveled hair and long white dress stand out in the dim night, looking exactly like a ghost. What caught the office worker's attention even more was that the woman always sat at the bus stop but never boarded a bus. Finally, one night, unable to contain his curiosity, the man asked the woman what was bothering him. He noticed a very large suitcase in front of her. Instinctively, he assumed she was waiting for a taxi. Knowing her phone was lost, he offered to help her call to find it. Suddenly, the woman asked if he didn't know who she was. The man misunderstood her, and realizing his actions were inappropriate, quickly turned and left. Another night, the man saw the woman again, waiting at the bus stop in the pouring rain. He kindly offered her an umbrella. The woman refused, saying she was very cold and wanted to come to his house to escape the rain. He was extremely surprised that a beautiful, soaking wet woman would proactively offer to come to his house. Perhaps a romantic encounter would unfold tonight. Filled with curiosity and anticipation, he led her home. Upon arriving, he found the woman soaking wet. He immediately offered her a towel. However, receiving the towel back from her hand filled him with dread. He noticed that all 10 of her fingernails were turned upside down. As he was still reeling in shock, she suddenly opened her suitcase and swiftly pulled out a sharp knife. Then she stared at him with a strange expression. A moment later, in the pitch-black night, the woman, carrying her suitcase, left the man's house. She went to the lighting shop in the narrow alley. Her gaze settled on a flickering light bulb. This peculiar lighting shop contained countless types of lamps in various styles. Every night, people would flock there, drawn by the shop's striking lights, either excitedly buying bulbs or anxiously glancing around before hurrying away without purchasing anything. Whenever a customer bought a light bulb, Won Young would open her notebook and jot something down. Strangely, Won Young's notebook seemed very similar to a nurse's patient care diary. Somewhere far away in the small alley, there was a hospital where Nurse Park worked in the intensive care unit. Here, Nurse Park often encountered strange patients. For example, there was a man who couldn't hear his surroundings and only asked Nurse Park where the morgue was. Before Nurse Park could answer, the patient mysteriously disappeared. The next moment, the man reappeared at the lighting shop, looking at the floating light bulb, then turned and left. It seemed there was a secret connection between the lighting shop and this hospital. Late at night, after leaving the shop, the woman with the mysterious fingernails walked past a high school girl. Every night, Hyun-ju ran errands for her mother. She went to the shop to buy light bulbs. Every time she walked through the dark alley in front of the shop, she felt scared. Her classmates rumored that someone would wander through the alley at night, and that strange songs could be heard. Tonight, Hyun-ju walked through the alley, and sure enough, she heard strange sounds coming from the darkness. At the end of the alley, there seemed to be a ghost. Hyun-ju didn't dare look closely and quickly ran to the lighting shop at the other end. Because she often bought light bulbs there, she and Won Young had known each other for a long time. She told him about her encounter with the ghost. Unexpectedly, he mysteriously said that he could also see ghosts. He told her that among the customers who came to the shop each night, some were normal people, and some possessed a strange aura. For example, last night, a man shivering from the cold came to the shop saying that the heater in his house was broken. But if you looked closely, you would see that the man's whole body was covered in frozen snow, looking as if he had frozen solid due to the low temperature. There were a few customers who came to the shop, but under the lights, there were no shadows. Won Young warned Hyun-ju that if she encountered these strange people, she must pretend not to see them. After she understood and left the shop, he played with the light bulb alone. But in the dim light, he shed his youthful, handsome face, revealing an old, wrinkled one. Another moonless, starless, rainy night. Hyun-ju went to the lighting shop again. Her mother had told her to buy a light bulb. As she walked through that dark alley, she mustered up the courage to turn on the small lamp that Won Young had given her. In the deep alley, she saw a strange, tall woman standing there. Kind-hearted Hyun-ju offered the woman an umbrella and walked with her. But after a while, Hyun-ju noticed that the woman's hair had suddenly grown strangely long, spreading uncontrollably, and even her height seemed to increase continuously. In an instant, the woman's height nearly doubled that of an average person, like a tall, gaunt female ghost. Hyun-ju was terrified. Remembering Won Young's warning, she could only try to remain calm, turning to say goodbye to the woman. However, the ghost limped towards Hyun-ju from behind. She desperately ran, reaching the lighting shop at the end end of the alley to seek help from Won Young. He told her to go ahead while he took off his sunglasses and stared intently at the ghost. Strangely, after seeing his eyes, the ghost seemed frightened and stopped chasing Hunju. Recently, a young woman with short hair named Song Hee moved near the lighting shop. Song Hee carefully chose a house with a quiet environment. Before renting, the landlord told Song Hee that one room was under renovation and unusable. After moving in, she put up curtains in front of this unusable room. Then she began her writing. But every night, a boy's singing echoed outside her window. Song Hee felt she had been tricked by her landlord. She endured the noise, wrote, and then went back to sleep. In the darkness, another shadow appeared on the wall. The shadow slowly rose and embraced Song Hee, incredibly eerie. That night, Song Hee was reading in the living room when suddenly the lights in the house went out. She checked the circuit breaker and found nothing wrong. She suspected it was just because the house was old, so she didn't pay much attention. Besides, ever since moving into this house, she had always heard noises coming from that room she couldn't open. It was as if someone was secretly watching her. At this moment, the whole room was pitch black except for that one room, which had a faint light. Out of curiosity, Song Hee finally turned the doorknob. After opening the door, she saw a bright incandescent light bulb hanging in the room. Without thinking much, she turned off the light. At that moment, the young man's trembling voice echoed from outside the window. This time, Song Hee opened the window and asked the boy why he was singing in the middle of the night. Unexpectedly, the boy seemed to have seen a ghost and ran away. The lights in Song Hee's house were still off at night. Having no other choice, she took a flashlight from a cardboard box and went into the bathroom to shower. Under the dim light, clumps of long hair hung down strangely. After showering, Song Hee was startled to realize that the drain cover was full of long hair that wasn't hers. Turning around, Song Hee saw that her bedroom door had inexplicably opened. Meanwhile, the light in the back room, which she couldn't open, suddenly came on again. At the same time the light came on, the boy who had been singing ran to the end of the alley and met the woman with the strange fingernails pulling a suitcase. The boy told the woman about his encounter with Song Hee. When Song Hee questioned the boy, he noticed another woman behind her, whom she seemed unaware of. At this moment, Song Hee also noticed something unusual in the house. She realized there was a female ghost hiding in the house. The reason the lights were off was probably because that vile thing needed to hide in the darkness. The ghost with the strange fingernails was curious about Song Hee's situation and wanted to investigate. The singing boy tried to stop her, but during their argument, he saw the woman's fingernails flipped upside down. He was terrified and fell to the ground. The ghost told the boy that he was no different from her. Following the woman's gaze, the boy saw his legs twisted in a strange way. He completely didn't understand what was happening. He cried and stumbled to his feet, constantly searching for an exit and direction. He tried to leave this terrifying alley. Song Hee also longed to leave. After confirming there was a ghost in the house, she desperately tried to escape, but the front door wouldn't open. She frantically banged on the windows, continuously shouting for help. Strangely, the night was quiet, yet no one heard the endless cries of the two. In the intensive care unit at the other end of the hospital, a group of patients' families were waiting outside. The doctor explained that whether the patients would regain consciousness depended on their own will to survive. Thinking of the patients' families' tears, Nurse Park felt sad. She hid in the restroom to think about it. At that moment, someone knocked on the door outside, seemingly a family member of one of the patients. The lights in the restroom flickered on and off. In the darkness, the patient's family member crawled on the partition, screaming at Nurse Park like a female ghost. However, the ghost disappeared, and the lights came back on. Everything seemed like an illusion. Outside the hospital, the strange, terrifying events in the lighting shop continued. A month earlier, an apartment had caught fire. The woman living in the apartment was found dead on the spot. Not long after, the police arrested the suspect at the bus station. As soon as he was caught, the criminal stared in astonishment at a girl not far away. After apprehending the criminal, Officer Sung Sik lit a cigarette, but the lighter wouldn't light. His hand was full of ash, but he didn't mind, quickly taking on a new case. This time, the deceased was an elderly woman living alone. The old woman was found dead in her apartment, presumably from a myocardial infarction. However, after examining the scene, Sung Sik became suspicious of the old woman's death. Following the clues at the scene, he began investigating nearby restaurants. He noticed a delivery scooter parked outside a restaurant, covered in mud. He entered the restaurant and ordered a bowl of black bean noodles. Only Won Young was inside. He looked around, noticing a delivery box in the corner. From there, he confirmed his suspicions. While eating his noodles, he mentioned the old woman's murder. The old woman was right-handed, but the TV remote was on her left. Additionally, there was a rectangular black stain on the door. Sung Sik believed it was left by a delivery container of black bean noodles. After revealing this clue, he bluntly stated his suspicion that the owner of the black bean noodle shop who delivered the food to the old woman's house was the culprit. Faced with Sung-sik's baseless speculation, Won-young slowly denied it. But Sung-sik didn't give up. After returning to the police station, he checked the records and discovered that the man who worked at the restaurant had indeed been seen at the old woman's door. From then on, Sung-sik's suspicion of the man grew stronger. During his break, Sung-sik returned to his empty house, where he was alone. The house was cold, lonely, and devoid of any warmth. Looking at the unused sanitary pads in the cupboard, Sung-sik remembered his wife discovering she was pregnant a few days earlier. Then, he stared at a white stain on the wall. Not long ago, a photo of him and his wife was still hanging there. A month later, the man from the restaurant was chasing after a woman in his car. Sung-sik, who was waiting nearby, appeared and stopped him. Sung-sik was astonished to see the woman in front of him. The woman's face, covered in burns, was the victim of the fire a month earlier. That day, the man who was arrested in the car saw the woman he had burned to death. At this moment, the woman was in tears, seemingly unable to accept her victimization. What puzzled Sung-sik even more was that the man from the restaurant, being restrained, said that the woman shouldn't be there. During the argument, he saw the man's eyes under the car's headlights, which looked strangely like a cat's eyes. In the chaos, the man from the restaurant ran away. Following the light, Sung-sik went to the lighting shop at the end of the alley to inquire. At that moment, the ghost woman with the inverted fingernails was also carrying a suitcase inside the shop. He noticed small drops of blood on the path the woman had walked. The woman explained that she was menstruating. Thinking of the sanitary pads his wife had left at home, he immediately believed her. He even draped his jacket over her. The woman remained silent, walking away, her face sad as she watched the lights in the shop dim. After the ghost woman left, only Won-young and Sung-sik were left in the shop. Sung-sik asked Won-young about the man at the restaurant, specifically mentioning his strange eyes. Sung-sik didn't know that at that moment, his eyes were also strangely distorted, like those of a monster. While talking, Sung-sik's attention was drawn to a light bulb that flickered on and off. That evening, following her mother's instructions, Hyunju went out to buy a light bulb. On the way, she encountered the ghost woman with the inverted fingernails. The ghost woman found it strange that Hyunju bought light bulbs so frequently. On her way to the lighting shop, Hyunju encountered a man whose house lacked a heater. The man paced back and forth and asked if she'd seen a dog barking loudly. Since moving there, the dog had been preventing him from sleeping. Hyunju quietly switched on a small flashlight and saw that the man's clothes were covered in tape. He seemed to be the strange person Won-young had told her not to go near. Frightened, she ran home. But she found her mother sitting alone in the living room without the lights on, saying nothing. Seeing her mother remain silent, she hugged her and explained that she had encountered some strange people that night and promised to buy a light bulb tomorrow. As she hugged her mother, she felt a pleasant floral scent on her. Of course, she wouldn't know that the floral scent came from the flowers that had been placed in the coffin. Her mother wasn't speaking because a cotton ball had been stuffed in her mouth. Her mother was dead. At this moment, her mother's body was at the funeral home. A while ago, funeral home staff arrived, dressed Hyunju's mother in a burial shroud, and applied makeup to her body. In her delirium, the deceased mother suddenly spoke. She still didn't want to go to the underworld. The funeral home staff advised her to let go of her attachments and accept the afterlife. Then, the staff placed the body in the refrigerator. She felt it was too dark inside, so the funeral home staff said that soon she would go to a brighter place. There, she would forget all her memories of the earthly world. She seemed unwilling to leave this place. Helpless, she could only cry in the dark refrigerator. Besides the funeral home staff, there was also Nurse Park from the intensive care unit. That night, Nurse Park was on night duty at the hospital, and she encountered a brave man in the elevator. Hearing that Nurse Park was a nurse from the intensive care unit, the man sadly inquired about the condition of the critically ill patients in the unit. He wanted to know if they could regain consciousness. After hearing an uncertain answer from Nurse Park, a large amount of water suddenly appeared at the man's feet. Nurse Park turned around and discovered that the water on the floor had come from the man. The man's incessant crying caused the water level in the elevator to rise, quickly submerging Nurse Park. She was trapped in the water and couldn't breathe. Suddenly, everything returned to normal. The man disappeared. Nurse Park calmed down and went to the nurse's station. Her colleagues were discussing a patient suffering from alcohol poisoning and delirium, occasionally experiencing hallucinations. Nurse Park proactively offered to take care of this patient. While caring for the alcohol poisoning patient, Nurse Park recounted the man's earlier ramblings. In his delirium, the man seemed to see rocks and debris falling. In his subconscious, he kept urging someone to get away. At this moment, Nurse Park noticed the deaf man who had once asked her where the morgue was standing beside her, his clothes covered in mud. Before going to bed, the darkness in the ward frightened the patient suffering from alcohol poisoning. Nurse Park stayed by his bedside and confided in him her secret. After waking up, she began seeing some strange people, such as the mud-covered man who came to the ward asking asking about the morgue and the man who was sweating in the elevator earlier. She believed that all of them were people on the boundary between life and death. They were neither alive nor dead, because at this moment, these people were lying in the intensive care unit in front of her. Just like Nurse Park years ago, these people had all lost consciousness and were wandering on the boundary between life and death. Therefore, the intensive care unit was like a place where life and death intersected. Here, some people survive and some people die. In the scene, the man covered in mud asks about the morgue because he was buried alive due to overwhelming debt. Worried about becoming a burden to his family, he refused treatment and wanted to die in resentment. But now, to help him, Nurse Park removes the sand from his hands. Then she puts headphones on him so he can hear the sounds around him. Thanks to this encouragement, the remorseful man regains signs of life. Currently, Nurse Park also tells her story to the man suffering from alcohol poisoning. She believes he can also see strange people like herself, proving that he too has once wandered on the boundary between life and death. Nurse Park continues to remind him to be careful. Once he sinks into the realm of unconsciousness, he may never be able to return to reality. In the narrow alley late at night, the young man Won Young cannot escape. Sung-hee is trapped in her apartment. The man is suffering from frostbite. Sung-sik, an office worker on a bus, is chasing the culprit. In reality, each of them is a patient in this intensive care unit. They have all temporarily lost their memories, constantly struggling and adrift on the brink of life and death. The flickering lights in the shop are their will to survive. They're symbols of life. And this mysterious shop is the transit point between the living and the dead for these dying patients. For countless nights, Won Young understands life and death like a silent soul-stealing driver. He cleans the lights that signal life and death while guarding this land where the living and the dead meet, nurturing both humans and ghosts. At night, a group of people wander back and forth in the narrow alley. Strangely, no matter how they wander or run, they cannot escape this seemingly ordinary alley. Before the accident, the office worker had a beautiful girlfriend. One night, after work, he planned to go to his girlfriend's house to celebrate her birthday and propose, but her reply seemed to indicate she didn't want him to come. In fact, his girlfriend was deaf and mute. Because of this, his mother disliked her and demanded that she leave him. She packed her bags, crying, intending to obey his mother. Unexpectedly, he, unaware of the situation, waited for her by the bus. He texted her, saying he would be there soon. That night, Sung-hee and her girlfriend were also on the bus. They were a same-sex couple, and the girlfriend was older than Sung-hee. Initially, they planned to rent a house together, but the real estate agent mistook them for mother and daughter. Seeing that her girlfriend didn't explain, she angrily left, blaming her for hiding their relationship. Sung-hee's girlfriend also had her own troubles. She didn't want Sung-hee to suffer because of this relationship. Sung-hee became increasingly angry and boarded the bus. Her worried girlfriend followed her. She placed the red high-heeled shoes that Sung-hee had thrown aside beside her seat. That evening, the boy who loved singing and basketball joked around with his friends on his way home. Hyunju finished school and was picked up by her mother. On the way home, the two shared an umbrella, laughing and chatting intimately like sisters. Several different people by chance boarded the same bus. The driver of this bus was Mr. O. Before driving, Mr. O noticed an unusual sound coming from the tires and intended to check them. However, he was informed that if he didn't drive the bus to the garage, he would have to pay for the inspection himself. To save money, Mr. O risked driving in the rainy night. As night fell, the last bus driven by Mr. O slowly moved forward. There were very few passengers left, each lost in their own thoughts. Unexpectedly, the bus suddenly lost control. Mr. O tried his best to save the bus, but the accident still happened. The bus overturned and fell into the river. The office worker's deaf girlfriend witnessed the scene. She knew her boyfriend was on the bus from the start, so she quickly called the police, but she couldn't make any sound on the phone. Rescue teams arrived, and the bus was salvaged. Passengers and the driver were taken to the hospital. Tragically, the accident was so horrific that the office worker's waist was almost completely fractured. Driver O's abdomen was filled with river water. Others were in critical condition and in a coma. Doctors tried their best to save them, but some did not survive, including Mr. O and Sung-hee's girlfriend. In the hospital corridor, the office worker's parents were still waiting for news of his recovery. The rescue team gave the two parents the phone they found on the bus. That evening, the deaf girlfriend called. The office worker's mother hung up the phone and then texted him, saying his death was caused by his girlfriend. She claimed that if her son hadn't been looking for her, he wouldn't have had the accident. Ironically, the office worker was eventually saved by doctors. His parents checked his phone and found a text message from his girlfriend, saying she would also come to where he was. Realizing something was wrong, they quickly texted back, saying he was still alive. His girlfriend, upon seeing the message, broke 10 of her fingernails in her desperate struggle, but tragically, it was too late. After his girlfriend's death, he buried her and placed her body in the refrigerator. Since then, Her spirit has wandered aimlessly. Most people die without surprise, but some, relying on their will to survive, perhaps still have hope of resurrection, of escaping death. After falling into a dying state, the consciousness of the deaf-mute girl wandered on the boundary between life and death. She entered a shop of lights symbolizing the boundary between life and death. While alive, she used to wait for her lover at a bus stop full of cherry blossoms. She used to beat a drum to express her love for him. Her soul still waits at that bus stop every night, repeatedly tapping on the bench with her fingernails. Because of her boundless love for her boyfriend, the deaf-mute woman used her last ounce of strength to finally speak in this miraculous world of life and death. Sadly, her boyfriend also fell into a spirit state and lost his memories of his life. Every time he got off the bus, he didn't remember his beloved girlfriend in front of him. In addition, because his waist was broken in a car accident, every time he walked for a while, his entire body would break in half. To help him, the woman continuously used needle and thread to sew up his waist. As time passed, the time my girlfriend had left to stay on the brink of life and death was running out. It's customary for burials to last 3 days, usually waiting 3 days before removing the deceased, the purpose being to give the departed time to bid farewell to the earthly realm. And now, the time his girlfriend spends on the brink of life and death is almost over. But the funeral staff discovers that the refrigerator containing the woman's body still won't open. The funeral staff know that the woman still has many regrets and doesn't want to leave. While wandering on the boundary between life and death, the woman continuously sewed up her boyfriend's waist. Perhaps it was because of her love that, even though the man hadn't regained consciousness, he eventually overcame the danger. It wasn't just the woman who had regrets. Song-hee's girlfriend also had unfulfilled wishes. When the disaster struck, to protect Song-hee, she held him tightly from behind. Even due to post-mortem muscle stiffness, she couldn't separate from Song-hee's body. Now, at the intersection of yin and yang, the female ghost clinging to Song-hee in her rented apartment is her beloved girlfriend. Seeing the light bulb flickering on and off in the room, Song-hee's memories suddenly flood back. Thinking of her girlfriend's love and their arguments, she finally bursts into tears in the pitch-black night. Trapped in the narrow alley is also a female student, Hyunju. Since they moved into this apartment, her mother has told her to buy light bulbs every night, but her mother has never explained why she needs them. Finally, one night, Hyunju became angry. The road to the light store was too terrifying for her to go alone. In her anger, Hyunju burst into tears, unable to understand why her mother kept forcing her to buy useless light bulbs. Little did Hyunju know that the light bulb was her lifeline. Her mother wanted to save her, wanted her, who was in a coma after a car accident, to wake up. Sung-sik was just as confused. When it rained, he always took shelter in the shop. The owner of the lighting shop always gave him a strange feeling, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. After the rain stopped, Sung-sik left the shop and returned to the narrow alley late at night, trying to find his way out. At the end of the alley was a high school. The names of the students were pasted on the lockers in the classroom. Seeing one of those names, Sung-sik's lost memories seemed to be slowly returning. It turned out his wife had been pregnant before, but months had passed and her belly hadn't grown. After a checkup, they discovered the baby had died in the womb. His wife was heartbroken, and he felt even more guilty. He blamed it all on himself for working day and night on the case, neglecting his wife. As he recalled his memories, he frantically ran through the alley. But no matter what, he couldn't find his wife. He couldn't get out of this strange alley. A moment later, he lit a cigarette and discovered that his previously broken lighter suddenly worked again. In the light of the lighter, he saw his shadow on the wall, which seemed somewhat disoriented. In a panic, he returned to the lighting shop. One young offered him a cup of hot coffee. He gulped it down, but felt neither the heat nor the taste. Furthermore, he noticed that the night in the lighting shop seemed to never end. After listening to Sung-sik, one young took off his sunglasses and opened his eyes. They were strange, like fox eyes. One young told Sung-sik that he too had once been bewildered by the lighting shop. It was a long time ago. After a disaster, one young and his young daughter were buried in the rubble. In the pitch-black ruins, his obedient daughter unwrapped a candy for him. The man ate the delicious candy and promised his daughter he would quickly find someone to rescue her. After struggling to escape from the rubble, the man staggered to the lamp shop at the end of the alley. The shop owner was a mysterious woman. The man pleaded with her for help but was refused. In a fit of rage, he grabbed a lamp in the shop intending to smash it. Suddenly, his body stiffened. Then, the woman took the lamp from his hand. The light in the shop returned to normal. The owner told the man that his daughter's lamp was also in the shop. Looking at the flickering light before him, the man understood the true meaning of this lamp shop. It was a place where the living and the dead intersected. Anyone who entered the lamp shop was about to die. One foot had already stepped into the underworld. Among them, some still held hope of survival, while others showed no signs of life at all. The man, who had long since died in the rubble, understood the truth truth that he was dead. Unable to accept it, he sobbed and begged the owner to save his daughter. Because of the man's belief, the shop owner agreed to the deal, allowing him to replace her as the owner of the lamp shop, the guide at the intersection of yin and yang. After hearing Won Young's story, Sun Sik understood the meaning of the lamp shop, but he couldn't understand his own situation. Was he a human or a ghost, alive or dead? Won Young answered frankly that he was still alive, and in this world, if a living person wanders around, they are no different from a ghost. As a criminal investigator, Sun Sik couldn't easily believe Won Young's words. He then recited a series of childhood names. These were all names Sun Sik had seen in the mysterious classroom at his high school when he was wandering in the alley. One of them was the name Sun Sik had given his own child. Hearing this, he couldn't hold back his tears and began to believe Won Young. He asked why Won Young hadn't told him the truth earlier. Won Young explained that Sun Sik was still alive and could still return. The person returning cannot bring back memories of the lamp shop, otherwise they will confuse the two worlds. After waking up, they will be delirious. Sun Sik has one last question. He wants to know where the suspect he is pursuing has gone. Won Young explains that the suspect's existence is to lead Sun Sik to the lamp shop. Then Won Young suggests Sun Sik follow the light to search. Sun Sik understands and lights a match. He sees a glimmer of hope. The flame flares up. At the same time, in the intensive care unit, Sun Sik opens his eyes, regaining consciousness. Finally, he is awake. In the intersection of yin and yang, there are still people in constant confusion. One of them is the man who always hears a dog barking. One night, unable to bear it any longer, he runs out of his apartment and vows to find that troublesome dog. Following the barking, he sees the dog at the end of the alley. However, the moment he looked into the dog's eyes, the man was stunned, remembering everything related to the dog. He had once unfortunately fallen into a ravine on a mountain and fallen into a coma due to hypothermia. At that time, the rescue dog had stayed by his side, keeping him warm and barking incessantly to signal for help. Thanks to the dog's companionship, the man was eventually found by the rescue team. Sadly, the dog that had helped him had passed away. Recalling the past, the man wept as he stroked the kind dog. The night was pitch black, but the dog continued to bark, seemingly signaling for the man to follow. Following the dog, the man arrived at a lamp shop. Still hearing the dog's barking, the man found his lifeline. In the apartment late at night, Hyunju was still crying. Hyunju couldn't understand why her mother made her buy light bulbs every night. Her mother was speechless, silently picking up the bracelet that had fallen to the ground in front of her. The mother shielded her daughter with her own body, minimizing the impact. She sacrificed herself to protect her daughter. Tomorrow will be her funeral. There are also those who don't hesitate to give their lives to protect their loved ones, such as Song-hee's girlfriend. When the accident happened, Song-hee's girlfriend hugged her tightly to protect her, and in doing so, she lost her life. Now, in the apartment between the realms of yin and yang, her girlfriend still holds her from behind, guiding her to a lamp shop to find her own light bulb. Besides them, in the intensive care unit, there's a young boy injured in a bus accident, unconscious. Nurse Park placed his favorite basketball under his bed, hoping it would comfort him. This basketball also appeared in the alleyway in the yin-yang world. Following the basketball, bus driver Mr. O found the boy. Unable to leave the alley, the boy was very depressed. Mr. O gently sat down and said he would carry the boy out. In the flickering light of the night, Mr. O carried the teenager out of the alley and showed him the way to the lamp shop. Mr. O told the boy to rely on his willpower to find the right light bulb in the shop. Before the boy left, Mr. O, weeping, apologized. He deeply regretted the accident he had caused. Guided by Mr. O, the teenager dragged his injured legs into the shop. Relying on his willpower, he found his light bulb among countless lamps. The moment he touched the bulb, light flared up and the flame of life was rekindled. A month later, the teenager woke up and was discharged from the hospital, telling Nurse Park that he occasionally had strange dreams. He dreamed of wandering somewhere. Nurse Park smiled. She knew that the man who carried the teenager in the dream, though seemingly rigid, was actually very warm-hearted. After carrying the teenager out, Mr. O returned to the alley, went to Song-hee's apartment, and apologized to her girlfriend. His girlfriend didn't blame him at all, because life always has surprises. Mr. O, like them, was one of the unfortunate victims. Mr. O said he intended to continue searching for survivors and bring them to the lamp shop. His girlfriend reminded him that there were still survivors in the building near the alley. After thanking her, Mr. O went to the building. The person he saw was Hyunju's mother. Mr. O thought she was still alive. It wasn't until she cried and kept turning her head back that he suddenly realized she was dead. She had left the building to save someone she couldn't bear to leave behind. Late at night, she ran to the lamp shop. Because her mouth was stuffed with cotton, she couldn't speak. She could only give Won Young a bracelet engraved with her daughter's name. He understood that she had come to get a light bulb for Hyunju. Hyunju was angry with her mother and refused to go to the shop. Her mother had no choice. He shook his head and said that the light bulb had to be picked up by the person who had come to get it. She She anxiously clutched him, silently wailing. Seeing this, he took off his sunglasses, revealing his deep, soulful eyes. Looking into those eyes, the mother was almost speechless, weeping as she picked up a candy nearby, unwrapped one, and put it in his mouth. The woman's familiar action matched his memories. He suddenly realized that the woman before him was his daughter, the one who had unwrapped candy for him in the ruins years ago. Because of a deal with the previous owner, his daughter had survived in the ruins that year. He, on the other hand, had endured loneliness in the realm of the living and the dead for so long. Finally, he was reunited with his daughter. In that moment, he wept and hugged his beloved, the one he had risked his life to protect. That night, Mr. O met Hyunju outside the building and reminded her of her current situation. Only then did Hyunju realize she was about to die. She thought about how everyone around her seemed unable to see her. Mr. O apologized and told Hyunju about her mother's difficult situation in order to bring her back home. Her mother had exhausted all her strength. At this moment, her mother returned home, carrying her daughter's light bulb. Because she was his beloved daughter, Won Young made an exception. He gave her Hyunju's light bulb. Hyunju's mother tried to force the bulb into her hand, but Hyunju cried and refused to accept it. She couldn't bear to be separated from her mother. She wanted to live with her. Her mother cried incessantly. She also couldn't bear to be separated from her, but compared to her mother's feelings, she wished even more for her daughter to live well. Thanks to the light her mother brought, Hyunju finally woke up in her hospital bed. A month later, her father drove Hyunju to school, smiling and encouraging her. Hyunju tried to adapt to real life, but at the same time, she still remembered everything in that building. She remembered everything her mother had done for her. To avoid forgetting her mother, she refused treatment for delirium after waking up. Meanwhile, at the intersection of the living and the dead, every night Hyunju's mother would go to the light bulb shop, chatting happily with her father. She ate her favorite childhood candy, gazing at the tranquil white snow of winter. In the alley, at her girlfriend's urging, Sung-hee walked out, weeping. She reached the lamp shop. Sung-hee immediately recognized her light bulb. The moment she touched the bulb, she woke up in the hospital room. However, she suddenly stopped breathing. It turned out that to be with her girlfriend, she had smashed the light bulb. Now the house in the alley was no longer dark and terrifying for Sung-hee. Even in death, each day she spent with her girlfriend was peaceful and beautiful. While Sung-hee chose to return, there were still those who couldn't let go of their attachments. The ghost woman with the inverted fingernails who had died. In the realm of the living and the dead, she continued stitching up her boyfriend's waist wound. Finally, his waist was stitched up. He successfully crawled out of the suitcase and stood up. At night, a female ghost with inverted fingernails, weeping, boarded the bus that her boyfriend was on. She asked him why he couldn't remember her. Was it because he didn't love her enough? His girlfriend's reminder revealed the whole truth. She told him to go to the lamp shop to find his light bulb. After his last embrace with her, he wept as he stumbled to the shop. Relying on his intuition and willpower, he found his light bulb. Seeing her boyfriend's light bulb lit up, she cried even more, heartbrokenly. She still couldn't let go of the obsession with the boyfriend who had abandoned her to survive alone. Finding the light bulb brought him back to his senses. But because he had been in the realm of the living and the dead for so long, his consciousness was disordered. Strange images and thoughts constantly appeared in his head. The doctor simply said it was delirium and advised him to let go. To escape the persistent haunting thoughts, he heartlessly threw his girlfriend's phone into the river. He planned to return to work, to his peaceful life before. One night, in the hallway in front of his house, he was about to enter the door code when the hallway lights suddenly went out. He waved towards the motion-activated light. The moment the lights came back on, his girlfriend, now a ghost, appeared before him in a bizarre way. The woman still couldn't accept that he had forgotten her. Instead of returning, she remained by his side forever. Meanwhile, in the lamp shop, the old man brought in a box of light bulbs that symbolized life. Won Young knew that some of the owners of these bulbs would wander here forever, while others were just passers-by. Old man O, who had passed away, would remain in that space forever, continuing to drive the bus, guiding the departed souls to their path. Sung-sik also woke up and went to the restaurant to meet the fat man he suspected of being the suspect. After a conversation with the lamp shop owner, Sung-sik learned that the fat man was not the suspect, but a messenger who had led him to the shop. After being discharged from the hospital, Sung-sik learned that the messenger had sacrificed himself to save him. The messenger told Sung-sik that his purpose was to maintain order, guiding those who couldn't remain in the mortal world to where they belonged. He was still chasing after the woman who died in the fire because she was dead but didn't know it. He went to the home of a lonely old woman to offer her a bowl of black bean noodles before she passed away. The messenger noticed that Sung-sik's eyes were very sharp, able to see things that others couldn't. The messenger hoped Sung-sik could take over his work, guiding countless wanderers to their rightful place. Sung-sik agreed. Then he put on the messenger messenger's sunglasses. From then on, he became a soul messenger remaining in the mortal world. That night, Nurse Park was haunted by a vengeful spirit. At this time, Sung-sik appeared, took off his sunglasses, and asked the spirit to follow him. In the following days, he always fulfilled his duties. One night, he went to a high school where an incident had occurred and met a young man there. The boy tells Sung-sik that they are alike and can both see ghosts. With a flick of his finger, the magical story of life and matter seems to continue. The film ends here. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more great films. Goodbye and see you again.